Hello everyone, my name is BlackWatch. I've already recorded this video, but I didn't plug my mic in. And today we're taking a look at how to master Gilles Touré, also known as Montagne. He's a 3 armor, 1 speed attacker and is a member of the GIGN CTU. He's one of the OGs of Siege and was there on release 5 years ago on the 1st of December 2015. Crazy. So as a result, he's been through many changes. He's in a state that is far from his best, but not quite his worst. So, we're doing okay there. And he's one of 3 shields in the game, not including Clash, because you shouldn't include Clash, because our shield doesn't function like anyone else's. And that the other 2 being Fuse and Blitz. He has access to 2 weapons, the LFP 586 revolver or the P9 pistol. Now that revolver is a 6-shot revolver. Why do I specify that? Because you have some slightly bigger revolvers. They do exist. So there you go. Bit of history for you. And you should go for the LFP. Because if you're playing Mont nowadays and you want to get into a gunfight, you'd better hope you're in it for 6 shots or less. Because if you're trying to take advantage of the magazine capacity of that P9, your head's probably already been plastered. So yeah, high damage. Pretty shock and recoil overall. It's not a nice gun to use, but if you hit your shots it gets the job done, so trust the damage and try and end those firefights fast. His secondary gadget, hard breach charge or smoke. I go with the hard breach charge because it's not a gadget that sees much use, because the people who get it don't often get picked, like Montagne, and so that's why I bring it, because you're not going to usually see it in a team. But if you want to set up smoke plants, you're perfectly welcome to take smokes, although you're more likely to see smokes with other people than you are to see the hard breach charge. So that's why I like to take it. It gives me a bit more options, and the team has more options as well. And it's nice to walk through a very small hole that is just about the size of your shield once you sneak through there, and hopefully don't get a headshot or meleeed through the shield, which is very common, which is why I try to ward people away from playing shields in general, because they're incredibly frustrating. But we're going to just make this guide anyway, because I got some nice gameplay. And his primary gadget is the Larocque Extendable shield. So this is a full body shield that he can activate at any time, and it has very few downsides other than the fact that you're moving slowly and you can't shoot, but the benefit it offers is, as I say, full frontal protection, some side protection. It is bulletproof head to toe. It, for the most part, can tank explosives. It's not unreasonable. You can't stand on top of a C4 and expect to survive, but it will take more explosive damage than other things. But now the difference is it's been changed slightly to have a guard break when it's hit by explosive damage, or just huge increments of damage in general. Also with stuns, things like Ella and Echo, he now has a bit of a guard break instead of just collapsing the shield. So you can call it a nerf, call it a buff, it's really dependent on your perspective. And I think a shotgun blast up close will actually guard break him as well. But when you compare it to a regular shield guard break like you get when you're playing as Blitz or playing as Fuse or playing as Mont without the shield extended, it's far from a kick in the teeth. It's really not too bad. So knowing that, you can do things with Mont that you can't do with other shields in terms of keeping yourself and your teammates safe. And so that's the top of his list of strengths here, is the fact that he is bulletproof, he has explosive reduction, he can look after your teammates, and his biggest thing really is crowd control and distraction. So picture yourself as a defender, and a 6-foot tall Frenchman walks into the room and you can't kill him, and his friend is staring at you from across the room just waiting for you to look away so that he can pop you in the head. The trouble is, if you start focusing on the shield and ignoring the other guy, you then get shot by the other guy. But if you ignore the shield and focus on the other guy, guess who's standing behind you getting ready to hit you with about 20 kilos worth of steel. It's probably more than 20 kilos to be fair, but that would still be quite painful. And yeah, it's not going to lead you into the nice day that you were hoping for. So he excels at that kind of problem solving situation for the defending side. He's essentially just a walking question mark, and you need to behave like a walking question mark when you're playing as him. You need to be the man who can shoot them, melee them, or just ignore them, or get in their way and be a problem. any way that you can cause the defender's situation to be uncertain is good, because the more things that the defender has to think about on top of his regular plate is, generally speaking, going to turn out into a nicer situation for you, because they'll be second guessing themselves. They'll be thinking, oh, I'll do this to deal with him, but then I'm going to forget about that, and all this kind of stuff builds up in the defender's head until they make a mistake and you benefit from it. You'll see in a lot of clips people basically forgetting about me and deciding to move on, thinking, he's not relevant, and then in doing so exposing themselves because they're sort of just nonchalantly running into enemy fire. It's weird. People react to shields differently in different situations. If you're overly aggressive, you'll get shot in the back. If you're not aggressive enough, you'll get shot in the back. There's a lot of situations where you get shot in the back. The other thing he's really good for, if you're against a team that has a lot of roamers, you can just crack him on and basically use him as your point man. So he's good for clearing rooms fast and moving through maps fast. Obviously he's limited by his movement speed, but it's not as limiting as having to stop and drone. So he can basically be a big drone. He can unfortunately get caught on the sides, but your hope is that either your teammates will then be able to mop up whoever has had a little go at you, or you'll be able to react fast enough to be able to stop the enemy from dealing any significant damage to you if they do catch you unawares or looking in the wrong position. The post-plant 1v1 is perhaps his strongest situation. This is where diffuser is down and it is you versus the enemy. Unless they have a C4 and a good throwing arm, they're not going to win that fight, basically. So that's where you have a big advantage. You can stare them down. They're going to eventually be forced to either do everything they can to kill you and potentially not manage to do it, which is often the case. Especially when people don't have the right tools for taking out a shield like Mont, when his shield is so notorious in its horrible strength. It's not really that strong, especially the fact that he has no offensive capabilities, which is one of the scary things about the 1v1 situation, is the fact that Mont can basically do nothing to harm the enemy. He's very much reliant on his teammates for that, because he can't shoot properly because his ADS time is ridiculously slow. It's like you've got an anchor tied to the end of your arm as you try to swing this probably only like half a kilo revolver forward. I mean, that might even be a bit generous. Not great. Yeah, he needs a wee bit of strength training there. But yeah, the enemy's going to be forced eventually to just go for the diffuser, and at that point, hopefully, it's either so late that they lock in and you just beat them down, or it's early enough that they continuously bait to try and get you to drop your shield, and you just look at them because you know you don't have to drop your shield unless 6 seconds have passed, in which case you're going to smack them anyway, so easy peasy. And the last thing he's good for is intel, because as long as you have a microphone, you can tell people where people are, and that is his strongest aspect, is the fact that he is just a walking, speaking machine of intelligence and distraction that can basically feed your teammates free kills. And that's the reason why there's not an MVP screen in this How to Master Mont video. You want to know why? Because it's very difficult to be MVP when you're playing as Montagne, because you will get no kills and you don't get assists for people shooting at your shield, unfortunately. You just get a small amount of points. So yeah, don't expect to be top of the team as Mont, but that doesn't matter. Weaknesses: he sucks at gunfights. His ADS is awful. I think it's potentially more than double the time it takes to ADS as a normal human being with a pistol. So basically, if you're in a 1v1, don't aim down sights, because your head will be fully exposed for probably a second before your crosshairs are actually lining up, and you will be domed. The only situation where you really want to be firing is if the enemy is looking in the total opposite direction, or if you happen to ADS before you turn a corner and then you do a little flick with your aiming. That's the only situation where you can really get away with it. And in the second one, you're kind of rolling the dice, because if somebody's ready for it, they're just going to take your head off, and that's going to be that. He's not good in anything that is more than a 1v1. If it is a 1v however many, he will lose, especially now that he's had the guard breaks introduced for him when he's fully extended. Not fun, but it deals with that sort of 1v2 stalemate that you used to be able to kind of hold on for, but now totally rendered useless in that situation. Not good at all. Doesn't deal well with traps, especially now that his explosive reduction has been reduced, so Capcan is going to hit you harder. Legion traps, as usual, just a pain because you have to then leave, drop your shield, take the needle out, and it's a very long period of time where you're vulnerable. And if you get trapped and you're in a place where you can't then escape to cover, there is the chance that you're just going to stand and die in front of your enemy here, because the alternative is just not really there in that situation. So yeah, not great for him. And the last thing, which hopefully isn't a downside for most people, because hopefully you'll have teammates that you can find either through LFGs or just people you normally play with. I'm very much encouraging of people trying to find friends to play Siege with, because it makes the game so much better. It's the fact that he's incredibly team reliant. He's very, very focused on helping his teammates secure kills, and his teammates need to be focused on supporting him in doing what he's doing. And so that is why you really need to be running with at least, I'd say, 2 other people rather than 1, because one other person, I mean, if they die, you're then on your own. You need a couple of opportunities to do something with them. In terms of strats, I've already covered quite a lot in the strengths and weaknesses. I thought I'd just throw stuff in there, but to be specific with things, don't be timid about your distraction aggression. Ultimately, you're a walking bulletproof shield. You can protect your teammates, but you can also be a pain in the arse. So don't be afraid to be a pain in the arse. Be aware of your traps and be aware of positioning. If you have a Legion on the enemy team, then take that into account with where you're moving and doorways you're going through, because you don't want to get caught with a needle. But if you keep those things in mind, and you keep the position of your back in mind, because you don't want to be exposing yourself at any time, or at least if you do, you want to make sure that it's very brief, and you want to try and make sure that any position you are taking has your shield front covering as many potential dangerous positions as possible. There's a clip here of me on Villa on 90 corridor, just outside of a breach I made in Vault, and I back up with the shield extended at the vault hole that I've made, but I also then back up further so that in case someone comes out from bar or from main stairs, I've got that angle covered and they're not going to be able to shoot me from behind from there. So you just move out a bit further so that you're covering everything with the front of the shield instead of having part of it covered with the front of the shield. You want to use guns on targets that are distracted, but only if necessary. You really shouldn't be chasing kills as Mont. There's a couple of times, I think, in this one where I do get kills with weapons. There was one against an Echo, which I really shouldn't have done. I should have been supporting the plant, but I didn't have teammates communicating with me at that point about that situation. The other one was against a Legion who was looking away. He does turn around, but I managed to kill him. That one was fine, I think. It was just unfortunate that I missed my initial shots. I did manage to kill him though, so it doesn't really matter. And the other one is against an Ella that I can recall, on Oregon downstairs. She's at the door of Blue Bunker. I am standing at the other end of that door, and there's a point where she's just tight in the corner. She's got a shotgun, but I know that if I get right up in her face, she's going to try and use the shotgun because it's a close range weapon, so that's her natural response. It's not going to be able to get through my shield. She's not aiming at my legs, so I see that as a good opportunity to just quickly drop the shield and immediately melee, and so I get the kill quite easily on her there. Focus on bothering the enemy or covering your team. So you want to be in the enemy's face, forcing them to choose between you and the potential of someone coming from where you've come from. They may also come from other positions. Again, communicate with your team, tell them, there's someone right in front of me, there's someone in this position in the corner, someone here, someone there. Constantly be telling them where people are in relation to you, as well as in relation to regular call-outs. You don't just want to be saying, oh, there's a guy next to me, there's a guy a bit in front of me, there's a guy beside me. But just keep in constant contact, especially if you feel like you're not going to be able to deal with a situation. If you've been backed into a corner, or if you're taking some real pressure from multiple people, you got to tell your team. There's no point in dying for nothing, so make sure you're relaying that information. I need someone here right now, and hopefully they'll be able to get to you and help you out and get some kills as well. There's a really good example of that on Chalet. When I'm on the double door, I have a Valkyrie who keeps on running out of the garage stairs balcony, but I also have a bandit and a vigil who keep running out of the double door, and I basically end up being such a distraction to the bandit and the vigil that they forget about the fact that they're still running out of the building, and whilst they're trying to shoot at me when I've got my shield up, they end up both getting drilled by my teammate who has been informed about what's going on through the whole situation. So 2 very, very easy kills as a result, and he's firing into me when my shield is facing him. That's the best situation you could possibly be in, is trying to basically corral enemies into facing you and facing directly away from your team, so that your teammate is firing at your shield, because then that way they don't have to worry about hitting you because you're firing into a safe place because it's bulletproof. So that's the best situation you want, but don't do that by putting your back to other enemies potentially. Make sure that you're doing it in a safe position. It's not going to happen very often, but when it does, it feels good. I've already said before, and I'll reiterate again, constantly communicate. You're really got to keep your communication up with your teammates, because it is paramount to your success as a Mont player. If you're caught whilst you're reloading, little pro tip for you, tap your ADS and immediately follow up with the extension button, whatever that is for the platform you're playing on. That way you cancel the reload and then you instantly become fully protected. There is no situation where you should be getting yourself killed for the sake of a reload. That is not a good trade to be making. I came very close to doing it when the Legion on Villa jumped over the banister and dropped onto my level when I was still reloading. To counter that there, I just turned to the right so that the shield was mostly exposed to him rather than me. But I should have just done that little trick, it would have made more sense. But in the end, it worked out quite well, because if I didn't have that 6th shot when I did engage with him, I wouldn't have killed him. So, you know, sometimes you got to take the gamble, but most of the time, don't take the gamble. It's not worth it for a single round. When you're going for a sneaky plant or a smoke plant, you want to put your back to the enemy. That reason being is that when you go for the plant, you will put your shield on your back, and they can't shoot through that shield when it's on your back, so you become a semi-bulletproof target. It doesn't cover every part of you, but it covers most of you, so you're pretty safe to just plant in a corner, plant against the wall. If you are going for smoke plants as a team, it's very advisable to use the Montagne, whether that's you or your teammate, because of the fact that if they do just randomly spray into the smoke, they're hopefully just going to be hitting your shield. So go for that, or you know, if you want to, you can smoke it out and then stand in front of your teammate who's planting and be the extra cover, take away any possibilities of a C4 or whatever. That's another little sneaky tip actually. It's kind of risky, because if they detonate at the right time, you're insta dead. But if they don't, you can actually run into a C4 with your shield extended, and it will cause it to bounce off of the shield and go back. So if you hit it with enough pace, you can actually sometimes bounce the C4 back into the enemy's face. But as I say, if you happen to hit it and they detonate as you hit it, sometimes the C4 will then clip into the shield and you'll take all the damage. So it's a very, very risky move, but if that thing's going to get you anyway, you might as well be bold about it. So, you know, maybe get a free kill or at least trade with them. And the very last thing is, if you are trying to facilitate, let's say, a wall breach for a teammate in a dangerous situation, like let's take, if you're attacking Outback, Bushranger Room, or whatever it's called, and you go for the wall at the bottom of the vending stairs, so next to the dorms. I don't know if this is the right call, but the sort of laundry stairs, where there's a long corridor and a camera and a double door. You can stand there and basically just be full cover, because from that angle they're not going to be able to hit your teammate as long as you're hugging the wall. So that takes away any potential of them taking out your teammate who's doing that job of planting a charge. You can do the same for someone who's planted a diffuser. Loads of options, no reason not to try and keep your teammates safe in that situation. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I covered enough for you to be entertained and informed. If you like it, please leave a like if you fancy. Give us a subscribe. And let me know what you want to see in the future, because I hope this gameplay looks good, because I'm feeling good about it and I will keep on doing it in the future. Do svidania everybody, happy Siege anniversary, have a great time and enjoy Operation Neon Dawn. Goodbye.